All right, I have been going live for a minute. Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening, or good whatever time you're watching this. This is Nnamdi Henacho. Welcome to another episode of What Was Ready with Nnamdi with NSTAR, and I'm your host Nnamdi Henacho, and I'm excited to be having this conversation with you today. I hope everybody's day has kicked off and is off to a great start. Um, and I want to dive deeper into another topic, and I'm just going to get right to it. It's I know I talk about database administration a lot. I promise if you're here for other things, eventually I will get to it. But I'm starting on this realm because this is a realm that I have a lot of experience in, and I've done this for the last 13 years now. Work as a database engineer to this day, but I have over 20 years of experience in IT. And today I want to ask a question. My topic is on a question. Do you really need a 4-year degree to become a database administrator? And I think I'll take this more from a high level context. Do you really need a 4-year degree to get into information technology, right? Beyond just database administration, do you need the degree? We are in an interesting time. Because there is the general mindset that you have to, growing up and all of that, it was like the career path you got into was a product of you had to have a degree to get there. That's the traditional belief system, that most of us have grown up having. That has been the case over a period of time, but the question is that still does that still hold true today, right? Does that still hold true to today, right? Is that still uh, um a requirement, so the conventional part. So please, if you have any questions before I continue, if you have any questions, if you're watching this live, put a question in the chat, or connect with us on social NSTAR Technologies on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, we're everywhere. Just look for NSTAR Technologies, send us a question, and I would definitely love to hear your thoughts and get provide some answers. But the traditional route has always been, like I mentioned, go get a degree, go through school. And it's always that's often what drives the direction your career takes. And that's been the truth to to this point is, hey, we're going through this. Well, I go to school, I get a degree in computer science, and then I have to go work at something. um, but it's not the reality today. And yeah, I mean, I guess you would have guessed that it's not the reality. When I was going to school, there's no degree specific to database administration, right? So you don't there was no major that is. Now there is. I'm seeing that a lot now in schools, now, especially in advanced degree programs. There's concentrations in database management. There's very specific concentrations that lean into, whether it's database management or more, database related verticals. But that was not always the case when I was first coming in. There really wasn't a concentration in database administration or database management or any of that. And so we had to. So most people who have done this for over a decade, who are in this career path, who have been long in this career path, um, we consider ourselves accidental DBAs, accidental database administrators, right? Because we came the non-traditional route. We didn't study for per se. We did go to school for computer engineering, computer science, but that is not the route. We didn't come with database administration as the core. It was a collection of events that led us to this point, right? So, most people in the industry, most very successful folks that I know, students that I've worked with in the past, don't come from tech degrees or even degrees at all, right? It is not a requirement. Right now, the reason for this is the world of tech, and let me focus on employers. the focus is mostly on very practical skills. It's in really your ability to demonstrate proficiency in the technology. It's in being able to demonstrate what you're able to do, how you are able to support them, right, to accomplish the things that they want to get done. And so your interviews are going to, I've been part of so many interviews as a candidate and as a panelist, as an interviewer. And I cannot recall any time where the degree was a conversation. I'm not even talking about being a deciding factor now. It being a conversation. It wasn't something we asked. It wasn't something I was asked. It wasn't something we checked for. It was the decision to hire you, right, into a role, a technical role. A lot of the time is in your ability to express your thoughts, and address showcase your expertise, right? It is about demonstrating proficiency and not necessarily about the degree. So yes, the degrees have, and I'm a very degreed individual, right? I have a couple of degrees here and there. I have several degrees. I have, first and second degrees, and third degrees and honorary degrees, like all the degrees certifications. I have papers for days, right? So when I tell you I am not opposed, I am not against school or traditional, getting degrees. I feel like it is necessary, but there has to be an intentionality to it. Okay, but in terms of this conversation, to stay on track, the reason why the focus for this conversation, do you need to have a degree in tech? Do you need that degree to get into tech, to get into a career in database administration? It is no. What employers are looking for is people who can demonstrate proficiency. And another reason why this is super important is the technology is changing so rapidly. And I'm telling you, it's what was top tier 2 years ago, 5 years ago, it is outdated today. Like 3-year-old technology is outdated technology. It's how fast these things are evolving. Now it's how can I integrate artificial intelligence and use that to efficiently do my job, right? A lot of these organizations are building AI components into their job. As at last year, that was not component. So a lot of the platforms now have AI components, right? They are to make your job easier. And if you don't adopt it, you will struggle to be efficient in getting things done. And these things were not even there last year. That's how fast the technology is changing. So your degree from 10 years ago is not going to be relevant today, right? It doesn't do anything for you today almost. A lot of people will say this jokingly, but okay, what are you doing with the things you studied in school? And again, it's people say that, tongue in cheek. I highly encourage going to school. I want to stress that. But there should be any level of intentionality to it. There are certain career paths that you need the degree. If you're going to fly a plane, I better hope you're going to school to do something around that. If you're going to do surgery, you better be going to school and spending as long as you need to be able to perform operations on the human being, right? If you're going to do any of this very sensitive type, there are certain specific types of career paths that it is required that you go to school and get degrees in that lane to even be qualified to have a conversation, right? But it's not the same for tech, because tech, like the human anatomy, is not changing. Every advancement in the medical field is just to make something that exists better, right? But you're not changing the subject. The subject of all medication is the human body. That is not evolving. It's not changing. If we're going to evolve, we would have evolved. We just got more intelligence, but we're not evolving in terms of what makes up a human being changing. At least that's my thought anyway. Who knows? I know for certain, right? I know for certain it's not. God has made us this way. We are this way, right? Evolution is a theory. All right, let me not go there. But it's so that part you learn. You need to learn and build expertise, right? You can't Google your way through a surgery. You have to go through it, But it's for tech. It's constantly evolving, right? The database administration, for example, the way data is used today is so different, right? The value of data today is so much more different. It's worth a lot more now, right? All of the engines we see today with artificial intelligence are powered by data. Okay, so the capacity of your database platforms in the previous years are not to the level that to handle the volume of data, the complexity of the information that we have to deal with today, right? And so the skill set requirements also constantly evolve, right? So the evolution of the skill set requirements requires the ability to constantly adapt, to learn, to relearn, to upskill, to stay relevant. If this is all making sense, right? And so a single degree program you do is not going to be relevant for a long time to keep you going. And that's why um, employers are not necessarily enthralled by what you're bringing paperwork wise. It's, hey, this is the scenario. How would you, or what would you do to resolve this? How would you handle this if it was in your plate, right? So that's what what employers are looking for. That is what gets you a job. That is what opens doors for you. It is not the degrees, but the foundation is those technical skills, right? That is where it all starts from. Building that technical proficiency. So it's the degrees are good, but those learned skills are even more important, right? That technical proficiency, that's the foundation. Knowing SQL, for example, becoming proficient in that language, learning how to fluently speak SQL, fluently speak SQL, and getting, conversant in those relational database systems, database platforms, right? Understanding the oracles and Microsoft SQL and MySQL, Postgres. That's like an in-depth knowledge of those platforms. That is your entry point. That is your entry point. It is, if I was going to say where do I start from, I would say go one, identify a path, right? Okay, I want to be a database administrator. That's one. That's step one. The next thing you need to figure out is what platform, right? Is this making sense? Like, what platform do I want to lean into? What platform do I want to be used as my core area of expertise? So do I want to be an Oracle DBA? Do I want to be a SQL Server DBA? Do I want to be a MySQL DBA? Do I want to do Postgres? And the list goes on, right? So once you identify, okay, I feel like after doing research, this aligns more with my background. Okay, let's say Microsoft SQL Server, because I have a bias towards Microsoft SQL Server, right? Now you immerse yourself in that technology and begin to understand how it's used in data management and database administration, right? And then you can expand your skill set requirements beyond even just administering data, and get more into the engineering, understanding some data modeling, database design, get into performance optimization, performance tuning. So don't just stick to the conventional, expand your. So again, this is how I would recommend going about it. Right. Next, you need to now explore certifications, relevant certifications. If you feel like I need something to show to validate my expertise, you can explore different certifications that exist out there. There are certifications that you can leverage that showcase expertise, that showcase your preparedness. So I am not a lot of people swear by certifications, and I am not one of those people, right? I'm not a go get certified and just have a stack of certifications. But in some cases, it does well for you. So I'm speaking now in certain verticals in tech. So you're doing certain, say, some network engineering. There's certain proficiencies you cannot acquire outside of the certification, if that makes sense, right? If you're, let's say, Cisco networking, I think I heard like the CCIE, and there's different tiers of, and it's evolved since then, since I got paid attention. I'm sure it's different, but there are certain labs you have to do, right? So certain skills are not available to you just like that. You have to get certified to attain a level of competence. There are certain tech spaces like that. With database administration specifically, that is what I'm speaking to. it's not the case, right? You can learn what you need to learn outside of the structure, the infrastructure of a certification. So certifications are important. Speaking of tech generally, as a way to demonstrate proficiency in your space, yes, it helps. It helps. It helps. I'm not against certification. I want to stress that very importantly. Certifications do help. They have their place. They have the value that they bring. Okay. But I would not say they are a requirement. Okay. It's certifications are useful for, oh, okay. I want, because if you, again, like I said, tech is always evolving. So how do I stay on top of the technology? How do I evolve with the tech? All right, for somebody who is just trying to get in, it might not do you that much of good. Again, what your employers are looking for is, hey, if this is in front of you, what are you going to do? If this thing happens and you have access to this amount of information, how do you go about troubleshooting and resolving this issue? That is what your employer is looking for. Okay. Certifications is how I, as somebody who is already a database engineer, how I make sure, how I stay on top of what is going on within my industry, right? So SQL Server releases another tier of certification because it covers whatever new features they've introduced in their new version. So I go do that certification because it enables me learn about what's new, right? Preparing for that certification helps me learn about how the technology has evolved and what the current version of it, what it entails. Does that make sense? Right. So that is what certifications will do for you. It helps you stay on top of the, stay on top of the trends within your space, so that you're not lost, you're not out of touch or out of context with what you with your field, basically. So yes, I always recommend my students see certification as a vehicle for career advancement, right? Use that as a vehicle for career advancement, not necessarily as your way in. It's not the first place to, if I'm looking to get a job or demonstrate that I'm ready for this. It's more a, how do I stay on top? How do I make sure I'm staying relevant and on top? So there's several certifications within Microsoft. Again, the key players in tech and in the very, especially in the database space: Oracle, Microsoft, and AWS for cloud. Microsoft has Azure. There's Azure specific certifications, SQL Server certifications, Oracle certifications. There's a whole bunch of them. I'm not going to go into that list today because of time. And I think those are more classroom style conversations, more workshop style conversations, not necessarily for YouTube. But maybe some other time I'll get into certifications in more details. But you can begin to explore that, begin to look at, the Microsoft Azure certifications, the Oracle certifications, the AWS certifications, right? These are places to, if you want to start exploring and getting an idea, those help you get started. Other skills you need soft skills, right? These are crucial for success. The technical skills demonstrate proficiency. They help you get the job. Let me put it that way. Your soft skills help you keep the job, right? A lot of the time, in fact, getting the job is not necessarily a product of how technically sound you are. It's not that deep. Let me put it that way. You're not doing rocket science as a database engineer, right? I'm not trying to downplay the work we do. It requires a level of intelligence. It requires a level of proficiency, like I've stressed already. But you're not doing something nobody can learn and figure out. Anybody who is disciplined enough and puts in the time will figure it out. And so a lot of organizations know that. So when they go through interviews, they are not just looking for the technically savvy person. They are also looking for the person who is a good fit, quote unquote, right? And fit can be anything I make it to be. A good fit can be your vibe, right? Do I feel like this is somebody who will get along well within my team? The hiring managers know the personality of the people, personalities of people in their team. And so maybe they look and like, this one is going to clash with this person. Let's just avoid this all the way. We have another person that can do the job. They might not be as good as you, but they can get the job done, right? It's likability. Is this good energy? A lot of time is, this is somebody we like. It's not necessarily in the answers, right? So when we talk soft skills, they can open doors for you as well. But also the role of a DBA is, see, the technical skills don't teach you how to analyze issues, right? It shows you what to do and the steps to take to figure it out. But someone who is analytical has an approach to troubleshooting for problems, right? When it comes to doing things like root cause analysis, your soft skills will do a lot more for you than your technical skills. Okay, it's problem solving, it's critical thinking, analytical thinking, right? Those soft skills, go a long way. Communication skills. This is I feel like the most important skill to have is the ability to communicate. Communication skills, and I'm talking about written and written communications, oral communications, right? Can you convey technical concepts, complex technical concepts in very easy to grasp, easy to understand ways? Can I take technical concepts, confusing technical concepts, and in a room full of leaders, break it down and simplify it to help them with their decision making? Right? Can I send email communications and it's professional? Right? It's been a knock on tech people that we don't communicate very well. So if you are an excellent communicator, you're going to do well in your interviews. You're going to do well in your jobs. You're able to drive meetings. Can you facilitate a meeting, right, by yourself with people who are technical and people who are non-technical, and everybody leaves there feeling like they didn't waste their time, right? So communication skills are, something I feel like everyone needs to invest in, learning and working and getting better at. And then attention to detail, right? Our work is not for data is sensitive. Data is the lifeline and lifeblood for many organizations. And so it is not something, how will I put it? It's not something that we can be careless about. It's not something that we can say, hey, we're not, this is, we can be lackadaisic about. Data is so critical for businesses. And if you're somebody who I just want to get this out of the way, you're going to make mistakes, and mistakes can be costly, right? To start going into the level, dimension of, revenue impacting mistakes. Revenue impacting in mistakes will lead to resume generating. These are things we call resume generating activities. Anything you do that costs the company money will cause you to have to create a new resume, right? So those are some soft skills that I feel you need to start honing if you're interested in a career path as a database administrator. So your attention to detail, is super important. Being meticulous, right? Your problem solving skills, troubleshooting, root cause analysis, those things help you do well as a DBA. Analytical thinking, critical, have that analytical, thinking approach. Communication being, in my opinion, the biggest one. Can you clearly convey your thoughts? Oh, this project, this is what was impacted, and this is what we're doing to fix it. Like, its ability to do that is so powerful. It's so powerful, and honestly, it's really powerful. We can't play with those skills. All right. So, how do we gain the skills we need? Since I've told you don't have to go back to school, self-study is one way. Again, self-study, self-study is a lot of online resources. There's quite a few of them. I've worked with several people, and they've started, or depending on where you are, if you're a newbie to tech, then this approach might not be the best for you, right? But let's say you're already an expert, you're already a technically savvy professional person, you're just trying to dabble into the database lane, then you can explore, because now the foundations, your foundation is solid, right? So you can go do some self-study. YouTube University is a good place to start. Udemy is a good resource. LinkedIn Learning, I have that subscription. I think it's a good investment. LinkedIn is not paying me for this. They should. But LinkedIn Learning is a good resource. There are courses you can find, that just break down some of this. It's a good place to start if you're trying to make a transition. There are other online platforms, the Coursera's, Pluralsights. If you have subscriptions at your job, take advantage of them. Those are places you can acquire learn skills. Again, I recommend this approach if and only if you're already in tech and you're just looking to make that next step, right? Then we move, beyond the self-study, the online course realm, the online. So we have all these boot camps that are a lot of boot camps for tech are very certification driven. They are very learn the skill driven. All right. So be intentional in selecting that. So for us, we don't like to call ourselves a bootcamp at NSTAR Technologies. We consider what we do career training program. So it's more like mentorship and coaching than it is boot camps, because we're not just trying to get you through, boot camps. Go to boot camp, you try to get things done and then move on very fast. Beyond the speed, yes, we have that approach with, okay, it's cohort based in a specific amount of time. We put you through intense levels of training and knowledge. But beyond that, it's built and focused not just on covering the length and breadth of SQL Server. We can't do that in the times that we have. But we can make sure that you are ready to start a job day one and not be confused about what you're doing, if that makes sense. Our approach is more job centric. It's more prepare you for a job centric. That's the approach we take. So, and this is not a promotional video for, hey, if you forget business out of this, that's good. But where I'm going is focus on, don't just go sign up for a boot camp. Let there be components of it that are working towards helping you with the job, because the job search process, the transition process is different. It's a whole different animal than the learning process, learning the technology. So learning technology is step one. Transition is a different beast, right? Your resume, now you have to be fluent in the language and be able to communicate that clearly through recruiter calls, through interviews, consistently doing this. So they're having that support infrastructure in place is going to really help you when it comes to making that transition career-wise. All right. So that's the next. So those are the, gaining the skills, self-study, boot camps, career training programs like NSTAR Technologies. And then, just practice, do a lot of projects, personal projects, right? Build your own databases, set up your own virtual machine infrastructure, right? Again, these are learnings you have to do. You might have to go on YouTube and spend time looking at how to set up VMware and the networking. But go do that so that you can have your own, your own what's the word now? You have your own play area. You have your own lab. You have your own sandbox is the word I was looking for. You have your own sandbox where you can go in and tear things down and break it. You learn these things, you practice them, right? Proficiency is built by practice. That's how you build your sky, your sky miles. So that's how you build your experience, and then you can, because the things you do in your labs during with those personal projects, those are things you will talk about in your interviews. When they ask you, what have you done with this, right? What's your level of proficiency with that? Your proficiency is a product of the things you've done, right? You don't have work experience, but you have experience in the labs. You've been breaking things and fixing them. The approach is the approach. The game is the game, right? The field might be different, but the game is the same. The fact that it's, this doesn't mean it's not the main game. The fact that it's preseason and not the game itself doesn't change the rules. The game is the game. So personal projects help. Set up your own lab and practice like a crazy person. If you get the opportunity to shadow somebody who is already in the lane, please do that. That's another way to gain the skills. If you have colleagues who work from home or who have days where they sit out, who work at home, shadow them. Sit down and see what they do. Pick their brains and have conversations, learn from them, get some experience with them. And I'm saying things that I have done personally, right? Immerse yourself. Anyway, you see someone who's doing this, like connect with them, see what, again, some people work in sensitive places. They cannot give exposure. We deal with sensitive information, and so maybe you might not have, your friend might not be willing to share or let you look over their shoulder because of the information or data that they have to support. And don't be upset when that happens, because people do deal with what we call PII, personal identifying information. If you're working, if you are, as DBAs, We have access to very critical information. If you're working for a bank, for example, I have access to customer information. I have access to customer records, customer balance, customer socials, all of that good stuff. And so I can't be careless with who I let look over my shoulder, if that makes sense. So if you ask somebody and they say, hey, no, I can't really let you, because it's sensitive data, that's okay. But there are people who are not dealing with that. So if you have someone working in real estate, maybe that's important too, right? But who might not be doing something that's sensitive, then yeah, if they're willing to let you, please shadow them and learn from them, learn from real life. If you get a chance to, if you're a student in school and you get a chance to do, internships, please take them. Get some experience, get some shadowing, pay attention to the work. I don't see too many entry level roles because we're not necessarily. This is not the entry. It's not. It's a higher tier when it comes to tech careers. It's a higher tier, and so it's you won't see entry level roles like that. It is. There are, but it's rare. All right, so you're going in, more on the database administrator, mid-level to senior level type. That's kind of how we're getting. That's why people start and command a good salary right out of the gate, because they're not entry level. You're not doing entry level work as a database administrator, right? But that's gaining skills. Take on some opportunities. Take on, if you see opportunity to shadow, to practice with someone, to brain dump and brainstorm and ask, network. That's how you get to practice and learn the language. So that's some ways to gain the skills. Again, if you have some questions, please drop those in the chat. I will definitely look to respond to those. But yeah, so that's how we go about navigating this. So again, I'll start from the top. Traditional degrees are not dead, but are they required to get into database administration, to get into tech, but specifically database administration? No, right? Because of how fast and how rapidly the tech is evolving, the traditional approach is just not the way to go, right? And so we have to be able to learn and learn on the go, learn fast, and then at some point when you get tired of, pace of uh, pace of learning and all of that, then you can decide to make that change, and move away. But as long as you stay in this technical dimension, then you're going to have to keep learning, right? So those are some things to talk about. Traditional education is still important, but let it be with intention, right? Let it be targeted. Okay, I'm trying to get into this lane, and so I'm going to take these courses. I'm going to go study this, get this degree because I have this intention, right? Let that be done intentionally. Certifications are good. I said that earlier, but let that be targeted towards your growth and advancement, especially career advancement. So yes, certifications are important. Yes, they are necessary, but they are not for somebody who is trying to just make that headway and break into tech. It might not be something or a path that you explore, right? It might not be the path you explore. So instead, go about, there are I've outlined different ways you can learn. First of all, identify the pillar, the platform that you want to likely major in, that your platform of interest. So Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, pick one of those and then immerse yourself in that, become proficient, build a level of proficiency that nobody can turn you down, that people pay attention to your knowledge. That's the next step. So become proficient. And how do I build and acquire proficiency? Again, it's practice. It's, self-study is recommended, again, only if you're already in tech. If you are not in tech already, I would say don't, go let somebody guide you through the process. Let somebody introduce you to these concepts. There's a lot of foundational things you might not be aware of that you can't just Google your way out of, right? So definitely coordinate. Make sure you have a trainer, a teacher. Online courses are great. This is where we now get into you're not doing, again, I talk about boot camps. I mentioned boot camps and how that's different from what we do. We don't necessarily do boot camps at NSTAR Technologies. We call ourselves career training programs or career training providers. And so our focus is on that transition into a job. Anybody you meet for training or you're paying to train you, please let that be a focus. Let the focus be, okay, beyond the classroom, beyond the knowledge transfer. How are you equipping me to get a job? What resources do you have in place to ensure that I can go from classroom and navigate the world, the world of work? It is brutal. A lot of people are looking to get into tech. Regardless of the lane you go, it is competitive. It is competitive. People have seen the opportunity. People know that you can come in from any place and venture into tech, and they are willing to jump into it. So build yourself, again, build technical proficiency more than anything else, and then hone your other soft skills, right? Your communication skills, I think the most important skill for is communication. Communication skills, super important. Analytical skills, problem solving skills, critical thinking. Those will help you. Those will open doors for you, help you do excellently well. And so those are some of the things we've covered. Again, I'll be checking the comment section for questions. If you watch this on replay and you have questions, I'd love to answer those questions for you. But thank you for hanging out with me today. I will talk to you again same time next week when I come back with another exciting topic in our Workforce Ready with Nnamdi Iheanacho. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.